Hi, I'm Bob McNally, and I want to show you a little bit about fishing spinnerbaits, clip-on spinners, which produces a spinnerbait very easy and very cheaply for all kinds of fish, but chiefly for flounder and redfish. I always carry some of these clip-on Colorado spinner arms in my tackle box because it can virtually make any jig into an instant spinnerbait, which is weedless and I think more effective for flounder just immediately. This particular brand is made by H&H, and it's called a Redfish spinner. It just has a little clip-on harness, and it literally makes almost any jig instantly into a spinnerbait. I've got this one tied on. You can see how it looks here. Obviously I've used it before. There's a few old clinch knots on there, but this is how it sets up. This little clip, it detaches like that and unsnaps like a safety pin, and you slide it through the hook eye of a jig, and it immediately turns it into a spinnerbait. This particular one has got just a standard grub on it with a vibratail, which I like. I generally fish it with gulp because I think gulp adds a lot more scent than a lure of this nature, and a lot of fish, redfish and, well, redfish, flounder, bass, all fish react to the scent. So I tend to like gulp, but you can fish it just as it is here. Another thing about when you put it onto a jig head, I tend to like a little heavier jig. Not a light, this is an 1/8 ounce jig for very shallow water, but by having that Colorado blade on there, it tends to make the lure plane a little more. And I want this lure near the bottom. I fish it slow with lots of pauses, but a 1/4 ounce jig is probably a little better than an 1/8 for most fishing. The type of jig that you choose is important too. These are all pretty good standard jigs. This is a boxing glove shaped jig, and I think this one is a sure set jig, very good jigs. The difference here is you can see the line tie ring. This one is at the same plane as the hook eye, and that's what you want. This one is at 90 degrees to the hook eye. With the top jig, this boxing glove jig, I'll be able to slide this through, and it's going to attach just like so through that hook eye. If I were to do the same thing to this jig, it's going to lay at 90 degrees because this hook eye is 90 degrees to the hook point. So this is not a good jig for fishing with spinnerbaits. One final thing is for spinnerbaits, if you use braided line, you want to make sure you tie a pretty good fluorocarbon stiff leader on there. I like 20-pound, good fluorocarbon. It prevents a lot of tangles. If you tie braided line directly to the spinner, it tends to get hung up in that split ring or in the barrel swivel, and sometimes around the hook harness, around the spinner harness. So if you're going to use braid, do not tie it directly to the spinner arm. Use a length of fluorocarbon. I like probably 18-24 inches. Use a double uni knot to attach it to your braided line, and that's all there is to it. This really catches fish.